All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Nina, and hello. Okay, so we're going to just hang out for a few minutes before we start like the intro and everything. I'll go ahead and say on Twitter that we are live because I always forget to do that. Let's see.
Yeah, I probably missed some of your sprints because I don't have Twitter. So I'd only, like, if I caught it, like, when it showed up on the YouTube feed.
Yeah. I know. I try to use Twitter as little as possible. Like, it's nice for, like, some kinds of planning things. But I love not having the app on my phone.
Yeah.
This is one of the best decisions I ever made for my mental health. Okay, so we have a tweet just went out. How are you guys doing today? Everyone in the chat, how is your... I'm assuming it's a Saturday for everybody, but I shouldn't assume that because in case we have anyone watching from like the other side of the world.
Yeah, I was going to say in some of the world, it's already Sunday. So
it's already Sunday, yeah. So whatever day it is for you guys, how are things going? Hope you've been having a good weekend so far. Let's see. Can't find my clips.
I've been having a relaxing, but a lot of errands.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes I find errands relaxing when I don't have my children with me. So
that makes sense.
If I have kids with me, I find errands extremely stressful.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've had a good balance of productive and relaxing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the heads up, Nina. It was as I was saying, I'm like, wait a second. There are places where it is not Saturday.
Yeah. I always like keep track of like the time zones because I'm in like a buddy read group that we have like certain books we read in the month, and we're not allowed to start until the month starts, but it can be that month anywhere. And so we're all like, okay, it's officially May. We could start our books.
I think that's fair. Kelly, are you already planning what you're going to read in May, or are you kind of just playing it by ear, seeing what happens?
Well, I actually did film my May TBR today. So that might be something I do in sprints is edit and post that. But yeah, so yeah, I did plan out, except for like my little secret TBR. But other than that, I did plan out my TBR for readathons.
Cool. Yeah, I have a few I'm doing as well. I got to start working on my Excel spreadsheet the other day. That was a good time. Yeah, but I'm really excited for that. And then I remembered too, like I just saw something today that I was like, oh yeah, the Asian Readathon is happening again. And I had already picked some books that would fit for that, so it works out well. But yeah, I have quite a few readathons happening. Did you want to talk about any of the ones that you're planning to participate in?
Well, I forgot about the Asian Readathon. So now I don't know. They'll probably I always have like where some sneak in after.
Yes.
TBR. But the ones I had in my TBR were I don't know if you know Keisha from A Book Like You. She's doing like a spooky middle grade readathon.
Yeah.
So doing that one because I have like all these creepy middle grade books, but I end up keeping them all to the fall and then can't read them all. And so I have them all stacking up on my shelf. So I was like, okay, this will be a reason to at least read 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Sometime else.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one last time because I hadn't heard of it. So I'm planning to do that one as well. I think I'll be able to hit like most of the prompts with just one book. So that's going to be convenient. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me so happy to see like people just coming up with more middle grade readathons, like just because. I love that.
Yeah, and I didn't read much of any middle grade in April because I was like burnt out from middle grade March. So this will like, coax me back to the middle grade for a little bit.
Yes. I think. Okay, do we want to go ahead and start off with introductions? Kelly, you should go first since you're our special guest.
Okay. I'm Kelly. Yeah. So can you need me to do anything specific? or just intro?
Yeah, just talk a little bit about like your channel, if you want to talk about what things you kind of read, and if you want to mention what you're going to be working on maybe during the sprints. And I think if I uploaded this correctly, I think Kelly, your channel should already be linked, and we are going to have Julia dropping in to join us later. She had something running a little late, but she will be here as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly, and I also have an Instagram, like Bookstagram account. I basically only do books on there, and it's the same name. So if you want to follow me there, I am not very good at keeping it updated, but I do that as well. And tonight, so like I kind of failed at the I should go back and look at your prompts, because I'm sure I fulfilled the prompts, but the ones that I picked for the prompts, I have only read one book that I actually like picked. But I'm hoping if I finish Antony and Cleopatra, then that'll be 2 books that I will officially like plan to do for the readathon. I'm sure I read like other books, so something probably fit. But yeah, so I'm hoping to finish that, and then it's kind of like embarrassing, the stack of books I have here that like I have started and haven't finished. So I won't like show you the whole stack, but I have other options if I finish, because I don't know, sometimes with Shakespeare it takes me a long time, and then other times I fly through it. So we'll see. I've only gone through 1 act of that, so still 4 acts to go.
Yeah. Well, and we do say in all our announcements, like we really do mean that this is supposed to be a chill and relaxed readathon. Like there are a bunch of prompts if you would like to, but we're not, there's no like rules or anything. And I actually read a lot of the books that I had planned for my TBR, but there were things that I switched out as well. So I think I am going to, make my goal of at least completing all of my own prompts, which is good. And maybe the rest as well. But yeah, I had some creative book switching going on. So hi everyone, my name is Kara, and you obviously know what my channel is because that's where we are, but that's Wild Book Garden. Yeah, we're just hanging out, talking about how the readathon went. We're going to do some last like reading sprints, because I don't know about you guys, I always end up at the end of the month with like at least a couple books that I really wanted to finish during the month. So I thought if I make myself accountable to everybody, this is going to be really good. And we also wanted to see how the readathon had gone for everybody. Yeah, like, let's see. Only read Dead Voices, but I'm trying to get into Snow and Rose again. Yeah, what did you think of Dead Voices? I really enjoyed that one. Kelly, I know you said that was your favorite in the series.
Yeah, that was my favorite one that scared me the most, and I just like I liked the theme of it the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, so this will be great when Julia shows up, because I'm actually reading the book that she picked for me to read right now, which is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardust. I'm about halfway through, and it actually reads very quickly, so I think I should be able to finish this today. This is a Snow White retelling that actually portrays the relationship between the Snow White character and the stepmother character as like a really strong one, which I love. And when Julia picked it for me, she was like, I know that we both like those girls supporting girls, so I think you're going to enjoy it. And so far, I am really liking it, which I'm glad, because this is one of those books that, like, I remember a couple of years ago, a lot of people were talking about it. And I feel like the impression I got is that everyone thought it was just okay, like that it was well written, but I don't remember glowing reviews for it, but I'm like really, really loving it so far. And I think it's a really smart retelling, because like the way like the author sets up these like characters and this like perspective on the fairy tale, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. And you keep reading, and then because of what she has already set up with these characters, it like causes another part of the fairy tale to happen, which I just think is very smart. Yeah, the characters are great. I really like that one focuses so much on Coco, I think is her name, right? Coco. I really liked that. Oh, is it the Girls Serpent Thorn?
Yeah, I was gonna say it has random words. Like,
yeah,
I never remember, because it's like girls something's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. Yeah, I have that one too that I'm even more excited to get to now, because that was another one that had a really great premise, and then people were kind of like, it was fine, but now that I'm really loving this one, I'm like, maybe maybe I just really love her books. So that's good.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'm going to be focusing on during the sprints, is making some more progress in that. Yeah, anyone in the comments, are you guys going to be hanging out or reading something, editing, whatever? What are you going to be working on? I don't know exactly how long the like full like time slot is going to go. We're not sure exactly, but we should at least have time for a couple good sprints. So
I also like I have all these I should finish, but then I also just got approved for like 10 different NetGalley arcs, because I go so long and I don't request anything. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm just gonna go and request a couple things. And then I request like way too much. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, now I've got like 10 books.
yeah.
I don't know what
yeah, that would also be a good thing to work on. It's like, that's the reason I haven't started like NetGalley, is like I know that would happen to me and it would really stress me out. So I've like held off so far.
Yeah. I've just been bad, and sometimes I just take a long time to review them. I don't like often give up. There's a couple ones I did DNF and like, said that to them, but like I just might be late on some of them, but I try to like eventually get to it. But yeah, doing it. And they also don't always approve them in time, because I just got approved for Nettle and Bone, which already has come out.
Yeah.
Right? Or is it coming out? No, it's already come out. Like it came out this week.
Yeah. So. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, I don't feel like I don't think it's unreasonable that people review things late, especially when a lot of times publishers approve like months after the book has come out. It's like, I think you guys need to be prepared for some of that. Oh, nice. Crocheting a bee. I like that. Yeah, I do not crochet. I knit. I know some people who do both, which is incredibly impressive to me. That's like a superpower. Reading in deeper waters. Okay, cool.
My goal was to learn crochet this year, but it hasn't happened yet. So hopefully.
Yeah. Did you do like, because I know you do needlepoint, right? Did I make that up? I thought you did some kind of needlecraft.
Yeah, I've done like cross stitch. I know how to do that. And then I quilt.
Right, quilting, yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to like, something I could just sit and do while reading, but I'm like, I have to like put in the effort to learn it before it can become automatic. And so it's like, but I can't read now while I'm doing it because I'm learning it. And so it puts me off on learning, even though if I just learn it in like 6 months, I probably will get to where I can just do it.
Yeah. I have not yet ventured to knit a sweater, so you're still ahead of me, Dana. Yeah, I think I'd probably be an intermediate knitter by now, but there are still some things that I have not ventured to do yet. I was very proud of myself when I started doing socks, because that used to be like the like goal project, that I like couldn't really imagine myself knowing how to do. So now I got those down. So eventually, this is what keeps happening with knitting, is like I get comfortable and then I don't do anything new for like months and months. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm bored. I want to learn something. And then I like teach myself how to do a new thing. And then I'm like, I regret this. I don't know how to do anything. What if I just never knit again? And then I like eventually get over it. I'm one of those people who's like, I'm not good at this immediately. I hate this, which is like not a good way to approach a new project. But I think knitting has helped cure me of some of that.
Yeah. It was sorry if you were going to start this.
No.
So right before I started this, I came in here, I was sitting out next to like my 4-year-old and my husband, and she just randomly was like, Daddy, are you good at yarning? And we're like, yarning? And like, she still has trouble with words. So we thought, are you saying yawning? Or are you talking about yarn? And she's like, yarning. And like, we took a few minutes, and it turns out she was asking if he could knit, but she didn't know how to say it. So she was like, are you good at yarning? Totally random.
Yeah. That's funny that she knows what it is, but without like you guys like showing her. I mean, obviously she came across it somewhere in like a book or a show or something, but
I'm sure it was in a show, but she was like, there's sticks and there's yarn. Like knitting. Okay.
It's funny. Was she just curious, or does she like want to know how to do something?
She was just curious. She was just having a conversation, but it was like totally out of the blue. And I'm like, I have no idea because we neither of us knit. I mean, well, I guess he knows how to knit, but he's never knitted in front of her, so I have no idea why
Yeah.
she just it was like,
Yeah.
let's
The
talk
time
about
just
knitting.
felt right. That is
Oh,
funny.
no.
Okay, so should we start our first sprint? What do we want to do to kind of ease in? Should we do... Suddenly I can't do math. Maybe like 20, no, 35 would be about 20 minutes. How does that sound to start out? Or do we want to do a little longer?
That sounds fine. Whatever. I don't know how is do you know when Julia's coming? Like so we could aim around there or is she
I
here?
don't know exactly. I figure she'll probably just pop up in the middle and we'll add her.
Yeah.
She might text me updates, but I don't know exactly how long the thing is going to be. So let's go ahead and do...
Yeah. I mean 20 minutes is good to like to start with because sometimes when it's too much at first, it's like I'm not settled.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so that would be 35. Alrighty, so we're going to read or whatever you're working on until 35 for our first sprint, and then we'll check back. So go ahead and mute.
Did we lose her?
Apparently.
I was waiting for her to like say something, and I was like, "Oh, it's time," and she's gone.
Yeah. And here we are. Well,
How are you doing?
I'm good. I made it not as late as I thought I was going to be, so I'm happy.
Good.
We host.
Yeah. I guess we could just chat. I don't. Yeah, because I was
Yeah.
like, we can't take the little thing off because
Oh yeah.
she
that's
has.
true.
It's on hers, right?
Yeah, I think she has all the control there. So, oh, she said she thinks her computer froze and she's going to try to restart it.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, we can chat in the meantime. What are you reading? Because I didn't get to talk to you guys beforehand.
Yeah. So I'm reading Antony and Cleopatra.
Yeah.
So it's going slow because I've never seen this one, and I find when I haven't seen it before that it takes me a while to like figure out what's going on.
That makes sense. And I feel like the beginning of it isn't very eventful anyways. Like when I think about that play, I mostly just think about the ending. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it follows history, I know what happens at the end.
You may just know exactly what happens.
Yeah, because we so part of the reason I'm reading this is that I'm studying ancient history with my daughter for homeschool.
Oh, I love
and
that.
we just did Rome, and we spent a whole week on Cleopatra. And so it made me like want to pick this up because like want to see what he did with it because it is a lot of drama. There's a lot of stuff going on, so I'm excited to see what parts he puts in there.
Yeah. I know it's funny with the well, I was going to say the history plays. I think technically that's a tragedy, but with Shakespeare's plays that are like more historically based, like I read I just finished Troilus and Cressida earlier today, and it's like I go into them thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to get like this drama, this like forbidden love, like whatever it is, and then he spends like 2/3 of it talking about war, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's about war and like political stuff. Okay, I remember.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Like the beginning of this, I'm like, what? Where's the drama? We're just like the guy, the guys are just talking, like the Antony and Caesar and all are I think they call him Caesar, not Octavius in this, but like I'm just like blah blah, like what's going on?
True. Welcome back.
Hi, I don't know what happened. My computer just decided to freeze for no good reason. So thank you guys for continuing. You guys were talking about Antony and Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still in the like boring beginning setup part.
Yeah.
That's what's taking me a long time because I'm having to read a lot of the like footnotes to like figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm hoping a lot of times this happens to me like the first half of like a Shakespeare play, like I need to look at the footnotes a lot, and then you get like swept up in.
Yeah. I remember like we read Richard III, I think for 2 or 3 different Shakespeare classes I took, and even though I had read it so many times, every time I had to look up a family tree before I started because there are 3 Edwards in that play, and I'm like, which one are you talking about right now? Like, so yeah. Well, yeah. Thank goodness there's all those scholars who made cheat sheets for us.
Yes, that is one thing you can always find. If you don't know what's going on, you can always look it up because somebody has analyzed every bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm doing like a quick, like the other book I'm gonna work on probably later today because it's not as much of a priority because I don't actually need to read it, is I'm doing a very fast reread of Wuthering Heights that I'm finishing for our live show tomorrow. And I finally gave up and I looked up a translation of what Joseph is saying. He's that character who, like, Kelly, I don't know if you haven't read Wuthering Heights yet, right? No, there's this one character, he's the only one who speaks in the most unintelligible, like, I think it's supposed to be Yorkshire, but like I've seen even people who are from Yorkshire are like, I don't know, man. I'm not sure what he's saying. And thank goodness somebody went through and translated his speeches. So
more power to you. I always just ignore it. I'm like, yeah, and
I remember like when we read it for our classics club, I remember you saying like it might as well be written in Wingding's font, and like truly like it's like sometimes I can guess at the subject he's talking about, but I'm like, you could be saying something super plot important and I would have no idea.
Just think of it as like the Peanuts teacher.
Yeah,
like,
yes.
That's what you hear.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. I'm like, I hope this wasn't important because I could not tell you what you said.
I know. Imagine he has like one of the best lines in the whole book and nobody knows because we can't make any heads or tails of it.
You would never know. Yeah. So Julia, did you already talk about what you're reading?
I did not. I'm continuing Thief of Shadows, which I think is how I started this readathon. Did I pick this up in my prints? Love that for me. But I'm now, let's see, on page 225. So I have like 125 pages to go. I was able to read a lot of this on the train back from Chicago. So made solid progress. I'm trying not to show you guys because it's got my library stamp on it there. That's how much I have left is the little section. But it's a fun time. I'm having a blast. It's interesting. There's an amount of crying in romantic moments that I'm not used to. And by romantic moments, I mean like spicy moments. And I'm like, don't cry right now. Like, why are you crying?
That's not what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That wouldn't be a good sign.
Yeah, and it's I can't fully understand why either of them are crying. It's both of them. Both of them are crying.
Have they had past sexual trauma, maybe? Like, is that
No. No. Our hero's a virgin, but he is one on purpose until now. Whoops. And then our heroine, no, she's just kind of doing her thing. It's implied that she can't have children, but they haven't been talking about wanting to have children, so I don't know. They are just overcome with emotion. But I still like them, so.
Hello. Well, good. Oh, Julia, I was saying this is perfect that I'm reading this right now.
Yay!
I'm gonna try. Here's like my goal for our whole reading sprint experience today is I'd like to get to the point where I only have like 100 pages left, which I think is doable. Like, well, we'll see how that goes. But yes, your book selection is an excellent choice. I'm having a great time. Yeah, Julia, how did we talked a little bit at the beginning, like about how our reading month has gone? How was the readathon for you? If there's anything you'd want to contribute?
Yeah, here, let me save my page that I stopped on before I forget. And I haven't updated my my little spreadsheet for a while, so I'm like, let me see what I've actually finished this month.
Yeah.
I read Gods and Jade of Shadow this month. That feels like 20 years ago. This has been the craziest month. Okay, whoa. Did I finish that? Okay. So that was apparently the first book I finished in April. So I have finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus a picture book. That's a good month for me. Wow. And it's going to be 8 because I can definitely finish this tonight. Okay, that's better than I've been doing lately. So I'm actually really pleased. And can I tell you about the picture book that I read?
Yes, please do.
So it was a galley I got, and it's called Literary Critters. And it's about William Shakespeare. He's a bear. And he doesn't know what he wants to write. So he goes around to all of his literary animal friends, such as Crane Austen, Edgar Talon Crow.
Oh gosh.
Langston Muse, who's a cat. He just goes around and they give him little nuggets of wisdom, and then he hibernates and he has a little dream, and then he wakes up and he writes his play.
That sounds precious.
Yeah, it was the cutest thing. I do recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I don't know where in the midst of all those I am with my like actual prompt goals, because probably 2 or 3 of them weren't even things that I had planned on reading this month. This was
Yeah,
not on my TBR. I read a poetry collection that wasn't on my TBR. Just,
yeah, I was telling, like, Kelly and I were talking at the beginning, and like I think I actually did really well on reading the books I actually said I was going to, but there was still some like creative swapping that happened. So I think I am going to make my goal of completing all our prompts, because I've been doubling up like nobody's business. There were at least 1 or 2 books where I'm like, I'm counting this for 7 things, like, because especially because like some of them were things where it's like, I know I have to read this for a specific reason. So if I know I have to read it, I might as well get all of the good out of it that I can. So
I know. I think I'll be able to move some around, and then I'll be like, oh, I actually completed almost all the prompts.
Yeah. I was thinking like midway through the month, I'm like, I feel like I should at least complete all the prompts that I came up with. Like, that seems like a good goal. Set a good example, you know. But
yeah.
Maybe the next sprint, I'll like look at what I read and see what prompts I have.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that too, honestly.
Since I know I only read one of the books I said, and I didn't even read the actual book, because I had 4 books planned. They were all like Rome related. And I'm started Antony and Cleopatra, and I was going to read Julius Caesar. And then I was like, it's already like the 28th at the point when I hadn't read anything yet. And so I picked up like the manga of Julius Shakespeare, and I read that, and that was a bad choice. So I finished it, but I should not have read the manga version, because I didn't think the art like really worked. Like I couldn't tell what was happening.
Yeah.
Like who was talking, because like when you read the play, you could tell like obviously who's talking, and then when you're seeing the play, you can see who's talking. But I didn't feel like the art was clear enough for me to tell who was who.
Sure.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I've never done a play on audiobook, even though I know some people swear by them and like, oh, full cast is so amazing. Like if I was reading along, that would be one thing, but it would be really distracting for me not to know who was saying something. Like really, really distracting.
The only time I've ever done a play on audiobook was Macbeth. And I'm super familiar with Macbeth, but even that I was like, okay, stay focused so you're aware of who's talking.
Yeah, you have to follow along, I think, because it would be fine to just watch it. Like, I mean, you could count that as like reading it, because it's the same thing, but I just don't think that I could listen to it and not know who is who. I would be like, I'm lost. What's happening? Like,
yeah. And I mean, even if they did a good job of like, I don't know, when they say full cast, if sometimes that means like, oh, we have like 10 readers who read everybody, or it's like we literally cast a person for every person in this play. So like maybe there are ways that they could do it where like you could at least tell who the main characters are all the time. But I get fixated on like not knowing like little details. So even if it had like no impact on the story, I'd be like, which of these 4 guards is saying this? It would totally ruin my experience, because I'm just that kind of person.
That's fair.
Yeah. As You Like It is a fun one. Like I just finished yesterday the Tales from Shakespeare that I have put on every TBR since we started this readathon. So that was exciting. And there were some of these like plays that they had adapted that I was reading, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's how that one starts. Like I had completely forgotten that As You Like It, like Rosalind's father is like an exiled duke.
Oh yeah.
And like he's just chilling in the forest like Robin Hood. And she just like happens to stumble across him. Like I forgot, like I remembered the Rosalind cross-dressing plot, and I remembered her and Celia because I really love their friendship. I think they're cousins. So like I remembered some of the big stuff from the play, but I'm like, oh yeah, your dad, like he exists in the play. That was kind of a big deal.
So how close? Oh, sorry. How close are the like? Is it child's level, or is it like just like summarizing?
like it was child level when it was written in like 1806.
But not like current children. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send a picture of the text to you, Kelly, because I was actually thinking about that. I know you had mentioned like thinking of reading some to your kids. I feel like it's not super kid friendly for like today's kids read aloud. I don't know, maybe Elizabethan children, or I guess not Elizabethan, but like kids of the 1800s are like, yeah, we can handle Shakespeare. Like, lay it on us. I do think it's really interesting how they selected the stories to go in there, because like there's a lot of the tragedies that are in there, which I'm like, okay, interesting choice. But what I think is weirder is that they adapted Measure for Measure. And I'm like, that is not a play I think of as being kid friendly at all. Which is weird because like there's a couple of the plays where they gloss over like Pericles. There's like two big things that are not big, like they affect a lot of the story, but they're like significant moments in the play that they adapt out because they are not, you know, not appropriate for kids. So like they do sometimes do that, but the entirety of the play Measure for Measure is like about like the threat of like sexual violence and stuff, and they kept that play in there, and I'm just like, yeah. I don't know. So yeah,
like, why not throw in Titus Andronicus while you're at it?
I know, like, yeah, it's just weird. I mean, they had like a lot of the really well-known tragedies, but really the thing that sticks out to me as weirdest is that they put Measure for Measure in there. Like, I don't know, because I guess with the tragedies, it's like they don't have to be graphic about describing like, you know, everyone who dies, but Measure for Measure, it's hard not to say exactly what these characters are doing or talking about. Hi, Kier. Sense of Sensibility.
That's exciting.
Oh, that's a good recommendation. So, Beautiful Stories from Shakespeare. Sounds like that's a good one to look at.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I finally read this one. I did really enjoy it. And I do think that Shakespeare's plays lend themselves to this kind of like fairy tale feeling really well. But I don't think it would be something for kids anymore.
Yeah, just based on the time. Yeah, because sometimes the older ones, like we read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and she liked that one. But when we got to Prince Caspian, I think because there's less action, she's like, I don't understand. Like she wasn't understanding the words of like what was happening. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I mean, it's kind of older where at least Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe, there's stuff happening all the time. So she can like focus in on what's happening. But when there's not much happening, you're like, okay, just words I've never heard of. And
and I feel like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe has a lot more like dialogue and stuff too. So I feel like that's easier to follow, like characters talking to each other than like describing the battlements or whatever.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Julia? Sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. Prince Caspian is confusing because there's like 3 chapters that are a character telling a story of what already happened. And so you like get sucked up in that. And then it takes you back to where the story is. And you're like, oh, whoa, I forgot this isn't the present story. So it's just weirdly told.
We were reading it all together as a family. And even my husband and I, we got to the end of that and we were like, wait a minute. So we actually went back, like he and I went back. We're like, oh, this was all a story. Of like the past. We even missed it as adults, so we had to explain to her what was happening. And I'm like, well, I feel really silly because as an adult I had no idea what was happening.
Well, it's like if you don't read those like 3 chapters all together like at once, it's gonna throw you off, because I was doing like a chapter a day and then I hit that 4th one where we go back and I'm like, what?
Yeah, and we usually read only a chapter a day with her, maybe 2 chapters a day. So like sometimes you would be like, I think we lost the train of what's happening here. So we're gonna, I think, put the rest of the series on hold for like a couple more years because she's 7. It's a little young, I think, for the rest of it. Like she was okay with the first one, but like waiting a little bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
For 7, then, since we were talking about Shakespeare stuff too, there's a picture book that's a stage full of Shakespeare stories, which has like, I think, I'm trying to look at it on my bookshelf, 12 plays, but it has like pictures and they're told narratively. So that could be a good option too to look at.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but
I'm writing it down. I'll like look at them before I read them to her, but that's like on the agenda for next year because she wants to continue doing, even though she's going to regular school, she wants to continue like doing history because she loves history. and they don't really do a lot of history in like second grade.
Yeah,
she is obsessed with like read. That's what I was telling Julia, that like we spent a whole week on Cleopatra, and she was like obsessed with it and wanting to know all the details and like the whole drama of what happens at the end. She's 7 and she's like completely, she's like, so what's happening, like what's going on? Like she was so invested in the drama of what was happening. I'm like, this might not be completely age appropriate, but it's historical.
Right. And she asked like to know about it, so she knows. Like, wow, I love hearing about your daughters like getting into like reading and like history and everything. It's great. I love that your daughter is like already on Team Cleopatra at the age of like 7. Like, I love that. Yeah, she's like one of those. I went through this phase. I was not as young as 7. I was like, I think in middle school or high school, but I was like so obsessed with the Cleopatra movie that I would watch it like every couple of weeks, which that is a long movie. And at one point my dad was actually like, are you okay? He's like, this is really depressing. Like at the end he's like, should I be worried that you're watching this? And I was like, no, I just really like this movie. Like she's like one of the reasons that I think she's so interesting, like that she has like such a hold on our imagination, is like her real life story sounds like a play. Like it's so dramatic, but it's like that's actually what literally happened, and then they turned it into a play. Yeah, it's not one of my favorites either. There's so much battle planning and everything.
I'm not a battle fan. Yeah, with like she also really liked Hatshepsut. Like we spent a whole week on her as well. So I think she just really, I mean, and we did ancient history. So when you think of all of the civilizations, there's not that many that had women rulers. And so she was like obsessed with Egypt because there was Hatshepsut, and then later on there's Cleopatra. So like, yeah, she was like really honing in on these are like strong women that are doing it.
Yeah. I was super bummed because my local library had, how sometimes libraries have like different programs and things going on. So they had a like retired college professor who was doing like women of the ancient world. And I was like, that sounds dope. And I got my mom to sign up, and we went, and he was talking about all this stuff. But I thought it was going to be like, here's all the things you didn't know about women in ancient Greece and like whatever. And instead he was like, these women were property. These women were considered property. These women could own property if it was gifted to them by a man who owned them as property. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. So we got like a brief glimmer of hope when he talked about Egypt, but I was like, I wanted this to be a little more empowering.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that kind of, I mean, Egypt, and then we just did like Africa, like going down farther, like the Cushites and Axumites and some of those that were farther south of Egypt. And there was just like a very short little section in our history book that was like that they had women rulers and they didn't have like any issues with women rulers, but then they didn't talk about any specific ones. And I'm like, can we get some more information here? Like you can't just like throw that out there and then just like, we're not going to talk about anybody in particular. But I guess because it's not like one of the popular ancient civilizations, we only got like 1 week on that entire like section where we spent like 7 weeks on Egypt. So it's like,
it's like reading, looking at any kind of like history book or something, and it's like every once in a while you get this tiny blip where it's like, wait, it didn't suck to be a woman. Please tell me more. And it's like, well, we don't actually, it's like we don't actually know that much about them. So let's go back to what we do know about. Yeah. One of my like favorite, I don't even know if this counts as a fun fact. It's just like fun context, but I think this is wild that Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of the iPhone than she did to the Great Pyramids being built.
Yeah.
I just think that is wild. It's one of my favorite things to think about.
Well, because she would have been right at the like.
She was like right at the end.
BC,
which just shows you, shows you what a long civilization it was. Like The Horse and His Boy is one of my favorites in terms of like story and characters. There's definitely a lot of stuff that doesn't play well for a modern audience. So like it's not one I would like unreservedly recommend to people, but I love Erebus. I think she has the best character arc in that whole book. Yeah, I really like some things about the horse and his boy, so I agree. I wish they'd done an adaptation of that one too.
I still haven't read the ones that don't have movies. But not on purpose. As a child, I was reading the ones that had movies because I was like, I love this movie. And then Mary Margaret and I were like, let's buddy read the whole Narnia series. And we were like, great. And so we wanted to go like in order. I know there's like different orders, but that happens to be the first 3 that we read. And so now I'm like, oh, great. We're going to read one I haven't read yet. And then we totally just fell off the bandwagon. Oh, and she's here. Yep.
Hi, Mary Margaret.
Oh,
exactly. But it's coming. I'm hyped.
Nice. Do we want to do another sprint?
Yeah, because I have to leave in like a half an hour.
Okay. Should we do like a half hour then? Like finish. Well, might not be the last one we do, but at least the last one for all 3 of us to be here. Yeah, I love seeing some love for the. I mean, it's weird to say any of the Narnia books is underhyped, but I feel like there's a couple of them that are well known for nobody liking them, and I actually really like them. Like, I really like The Magician's Nephew. I think it's interesting. Okay, so should we do till 2:30? Or sorry, 2:30 for me, just the 30-minute mark.
Yeah,
that's fine with me.
Okay,
sure.
Sorry. I just, you know how like social media likes to remind you like, oh, a year ago you posted this. My Snapchat flashback from today is from a Nancy Drew computer game that I was playing with my roommate during the height of COVID. And let me see if I can just hit. It's just this guy going, here's Shorty. And we like died laughing at this man. So
Instagram was like, this was a highlight of your year. Let's show you.
Here's Shorty.
Okay. So we'll go until the 30-minute mark. All right. 1, 2, 3, mute. Okay, how did we do?
Good. I don't know how many pages I read. 25 apparently. So that's pretty good.
Nice.
And I'm like happy with where the plot is going. But you know how sometimes I'm sure people can relate to this concept of like you love a character so much that when an author makes a choice with the character that they created, you go, sorry, that's out of character. I don't think they would do that.
Yeah.
I'm at that point a little bit with one of our leads. I'm like, actually, he wouldn't think that. But thanks for trying to tell me he did.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad.
Oh.
Yay. We're so happy you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Thank you for joining in. I appreciate this ongoing what's the series Narnia discussion in the comments here. I am one of those monsters apparently who reads in chronological order, because when I was a kid and I got my box set, that was what they were numbered as, and I just followed directions. And now it's too hard to read them the other way because like I've always read them chronologically.
Well, chronologically of publication or chronologically of story?
Of story. Okay. So like starting with Magician's Nephew. But I agree. Where did Kira say this? Let's see. Yes, very strongly beginning with Magician's Nephew. I agree. I also think Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is more rewarding if you read the prequel one first. It's not that anything's wrong with it. I just feel like I have come across more people who are very vehemently like, no, you must read publication order, than I have like the other direction. So I always feel like it's an unpopular choice. But I'm glad other people do it that way.
Yeah. The first time I remember reading it, and I don't think I finished it. It was like right after college, and I started with Magician's Nephew because I was the same way. I had a box set and I was just reading them in order, and I don't think I ever read the last two. So then when we're starting with my daughter, we started with Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe more because we thought that would get her interest more.
Yeah, I think so.
And then we only read two, and I'm like, well, I'm pausing, so I think I will continue reading the rest in publication order since I've started that now.
Yeah.
And then see which ones would be good for her to actually listen to.
Yeah, I definitely think for kids reading the series, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe makes more sense as a starting point, because I remember when I first read the series, it took me a couple tries to get through The Magician's Nephew, and I didn't like it very much. It wasn't until I reread it when I was a little older that I really enjoyed it and got more out of it. So I think it makes sense to start with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah, there are very strong feelings on both sides. Yes, it is. Creeped me the F out. Like, yeah. Like
is
the
that
way
from
that he
Magician's Nephew?
Yes.
Okay, I don't remember.
Yeah, like it just, the way he can make something so sinister that like shouldn't be really, like, just very impressive. Yeah, I got a good chunk read. I'm only 20 pages off from my goal for our sprints. So yeah, very happy about that. Yeah, things are happening. I'm stressed, but I'm having a great time. Like, I just feel so bad for all these characters. It's one of those things where it's like, you have no good options. So even though you are doing a bad thing, I can't blame you because it's the best bad thing. Like, there's no way to win, but not in a way that's frustrating, which really impresses me. Because there's some kinds of like inevitable things where I'm like, this is exhausting and I don't want to read it. This is just like, all of these characters feel like real people and I just want what's best for them, and they're trying. It's really hard. Yeah. She did a really good job. Yeah. I think for me, what freaked me out so much was the bell scene. That was scary. And like the nothingness, and you don't know why it's scary. And then you hear why it's scary and it's bad. Yeah, that also counts. Yeah. I'm actually annotating Wuthering Heights this time around, like tabbing and stuff. So that's been interesting. It does take longer, but it's like, I forgot there's like some really funny parts in it. Like, it reminded me of that line, you know, in the line in Jane Eyre everyone talks about, where Jane is like, I shall keep in good health and not die. There's like same energy. There's this part in Wuthering Heights where like Heathcliff is like sitting there. I think he's like a teenager at this point, and he's just like sitting there thinking, and Nellie is like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? And he's like, I'm thinking of how I'm going to revenge myself on Hindley. And she's like, shame on you. Oh, it's only for God to punish evildoers. And he's like, but I will get more satisfaction out of it than God would. was really funny.
What a character.
I know. Yeah, there's been a couple of really funny moments so far, which is nice. We've earned those.
Truly. I'm surprised. I saved like 3 or 4 quotes in our last sprint from a romance novel. I never do that. So I was like, something's happening. Wow.
Nice.
But it's because the hero is like, he's in charge of like a children's home. So he like cares so much about all these poor kids. And I'm like, I love you.
Yeah.
So that's what's up.
I feel like when you had picked this book for me to read, I was thinking about like a Venn diagram of like our loves and interests. And it's like on your half, it's like motherhood. And on my half, it's like female friendship. And this book is like the intersection of
Yeah. That's the center of the Venn diagram.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, Wuthering Heights, there's some real funny parts that don't, I mean, they're not what come to mind when I think of the book, but. Okay.
Ooh.
Nice. Yeah, I'd like to read more. I always enjoy reading more folk tales, and I'd like to read from other countries like that. But
yeah, the Nature Stories anthology that I read earlier this month had like a lot of, I mean, not just like stories from places that I had like not read stories from, but just like stories where I was like, I've never even heard something similar to this, you know, like mythology.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. I got one as a present that I read this month. It's The Lost Fairy Tales. It's by Isabel somebody. And it's really good. And like the whole premise is like there are these fairy tales from all over the world that aren't as well known. And they're all featuring like really strong and interesting like female characters who are like really active protagonists. And it's about like, you know, sharing more about the fairy tales where girls aren't just like damsels in distress or whatever. And it was really good. I really loved the art as well. And I think it's cool too, because at the end there's like a little discussion question for every story. So they're assuming like if you're reading this with kids, and like a lot of the questions are things like, the main character and her brother both have the same goal. Why do you think the brother was believed to succeed when she did it? So it's like, let's talk to kids about sexism. And I love it. Teach them early. Yeah, it was really good. It's called The Lost
Author.
Let me look that up. I think it's Isabel somebody, but I need to double check. I'll look as we discuss here.
I'll have to look that one up because I bought one that we've been reading. We read like folk tales throughout this year, and I did not like the collection we got. It was supposed to be the same thing. It was something like folk tales for fearless girls or something. I don't remember. But one, I have not liked the art that is in it. Like it's kind of weird and kind of creepy for kids. And then like some of the stories still like almost all of them still revolve around marriage. And I'm like, can we have some of them that don't involve getting married at the end? Like,
yeah.
These ones, like there were some of them that still ended up with the main character getting married, but it was a very minor point. Like the most of the story wasn't about that, except in a couple of cases where like it's this foolish man's wife who saves his butt, and like that was very satisfying to read. Okay, I just found what it's called, and I might try and put a link, but
that'd be great.
The chat doesn't like when you do that, so I'll at least put the title in there.
Yeah, you're spamming us. Don't send us links.
It's like, why do their spam settings not actually filter out spam?
Cool.
So I'll try and put the link here, but that's at least what it's called. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot of them that I was not familiar with. A lot of them they do a really good job of like picking some from like all over the world. So I would recommend it. I really liked it.
The cover is very pretty.
It is. I really liked the illustrations as well.
And Kelly, I totally know what you're saying about creepy illustrations because I teach preschool, and every time I go to the library, I'm like, oh, let me find some of like these classic tales, you know, like one of my kiddos really loves the story of Hansel and Gretel. There is not one Hansel and Gretel book that does not have horrifying illustrations or way too much text. Like there is no 4-year-old version of that book. So I'm always just like kind of skimming the words because I'm like, at least this one isn't just atrocious to the eye.
Yeah. I wonder if it's because like they're not like some of the classic fairy tales that we're like recognizing now are like not actually great for kids. I wonder if they're not like republishing those as much as like doing like new compilations, you know? I wonder if that's why. Yes, kids appreciate good art. Like
absolutely.
You know. Yes.
Also, I gotta get going.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave.
Thank you for joining us, Julia.
My pleasure. I wish I could have joined longer because I want to finish my book. And it's nice to talk to you guys. But hopefully you get much reading done.
Yes. I at least want to make my page goal. I'll feel really good if I can hit that. So
sweet.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, Julia. Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Gnomes. That's interesting. Yeah, I can't say I've read a lot of gnome stories.
Yeah, I don't think I've read any gnome stories.
Yeah, like I've read, I mean, like the Artemis Fowl books, they have gnomes in them, but they're really like none of the main characters are. Yeah.
And it seems like gnomes are popular lately. Like I see a lot of crafts and things revolved around gnomes, but I still don't know any gnome stories.
Yeah, maybe there'll be like a gnome renaissance.
Maybe.
We can all appreciate the Headless Horseman. They all enjoyed looking back, it was probably a little morbid. Yeah. I mean a lot of the fairy tales, like especially the older ones, definitely are. Some of them I don't realize until later. Like I reread them as an adult and I'm like, oh my god, like I was okay with this when I was little.
Yeah. Well, and some kids can like it just depends on the kid because some kid can handle the like more morbid stuff and like reading the scary stories, but then other kids probably would be up in like your in the out of their bed in the middle of the night because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just like reading level, it's also like individual what bothers kids. Mm-hmm. Ooh. That does sound really interesting. So the Disney adaptations.
Yeah, and my daughter even like she the 7-year-old, she like we were talking about this the other day because we're reading R.O. Shaw, the like middle grade series, and every once in a while I check in with her and ask her if it's too much because there's like, you know, like some violence and things because it's for middle grade audience, and so it's probably older. Like she couldn't read it, but we're listening to it, and I'll check with her if it's getting too scary, and she's like, no, I'm not scared, but I don't want to watch a movie like that. Like she'll say, I can handle reading it, but I don't want to watch a movie with similar things. And like she can say that, like I don't want to see it, but listening to it, she's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember what age I was when I started differentiating that kind of thing. I'm like, that's very impressive that she can be like, no, mom, I want it this way and not another way.
Yeah. Sometimes she has like some very good connections, but like, because we haven't seen most of the Disney movies because I don't remember which one she was afraid of that I was not expecting. I think it was Tangled, which I didn't think she would be scared by that, but she was. I don't even think we finished it. And Coco we didn't finish, but that one made sense because it has like, you know, topics of death and
lots of skeletons. Yeah.
As soon as like the first skeleton came up, she's like, I'm done. So I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So
it's funny, like the ones that like I'm remembering when I was really little, like some of the Disney movies that like scared or like didn't scare me. It's like looking back, I'm like, it must have just been for very specific reasons. Cause like Dumbo was one of my favorites when I was really, really little. Mm-hmm. And then when I got a little older, it like really scared me. And it was like, I thought it was like super sad and I didn't want to, I mean, like you see like horrible things happening to his mom, like really, I don't remember how graphic it was, but like pretty like on screen for like a young kid movie. And it was like when I was really, really little, apparently it didn't bother me. But when I got a little bit older, I didn't want to watch it anymore. And like the Sleeping Beauty one really scared me. Like Maleficent, like really
she's creepy.
Me. Yeah, as a kid. I had like a recurring nightmare about her, I remember.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
okay, Lion King, I still don't watch that one very much.
We didn't finish that one too because we started watching it, and I think we made it to right at the death scene, and then we stopped.
Yeah.
So we haven't finished a lot of Disney movies. Like and I'm like, that's fine, I don't want to give you nightmares. We could just read the books.
Yeah. I remember like sobbing at Lion King, and it's one that I've seen like multiple times over the years, but it's still not one of my favorite Disney movies. Yeah, the pink elephants scene from Dumbo is very creepy and weird, and I know lots of kids who were, I don't know if I want to say scarred by it, but who have a very distinct memory of how creepy that scene was. Like, I'm one of them. Yeah. I thought that was super scary. Yes, the Tarzan, like that ending where you know what happens to what's his name, but like it's like you don't see it, but you see the shadow, like you know what happens. Yeah. Well, and that one was scary too. Like I think I am realizing a lot of the ones I didn't like as a kid and I still don't watch very much now are the ones where there's really graphic like animal death and that kind of thing. Because I think like with fairy tales you expect some of the other stuff that happens. Like in like Cinderella that she has a horrible step family, like in Sleeping Beauty that I think there's like a character death in that one early on. Like you're prepared for that, and for some reason I was never ready for all the animal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bambi is also
where I think that she actually, I mean, we haven't watched it, but I think she actually could handle Bambi, but like because we watch nature documentaries and animals die all the time, though that's not by humans, so it might be different being shot as opposed to like an animal killing another animal. So maybe she wouldn't like that because
yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Huns were pretty scary in Mulan. Oh my god, The Fox and the Hound. What were they doing making that movie for children? Like,
yeah. I remember that being really sad.
What's that, Kelly?
I remember being really sad about that when I was a kid.
And even the ending of that one, like the happy ending for that one, I'm like, this is not a movie about friendship. Yeah. No. I mean, but some of the books they have you read like when you're little too. Like we read Where the Red Fern Grows in like 5th grade, which like I won't spoil it for anybody who does plan to read it, but it is like I think it's sadder than Old Yeller, honestly. And we read that when we were like 9 years old or something, like 9 or 10. It was our read aloud. And I just remember like half of the classroom full of children just like sobbing and the other half trying not to. And it's like, what? I don't know. Sometimes some of the things that they pick for kids' book lists is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we've read any this year that have been super sad like that. I mean, mostly I feel like I've been reading to her fantasy books because that's what I like. So I'm like, I'm just going to read you. That's like R.O. Shaw, and like we're going to be reading Where the Mountain Meets the Moon next week. We start that one. So like, I'm just going to read you a bunch of fantasy adventure books because that's what I want to be reading. And she loves them.
Right. It's like, it's a win for both of you. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes. That one song in Princess and the Frog is very creepy. I love that movie though.
I haven't seen that one. There's like a time period of Disney movies where I was at that age where I was too old to be like cool to watch Disney movies, but I wasn't like old enough to be like, well, now I can just watch whatever I want because I'm an adult and I can watch Disney movies if I want. So, like there's this time period that Princess and the Frog fits into that there's several movies around then that I have not seen. I should probably go back and watch them.
That would be a fun thing to do. Yeah, I remember that period as well. I think I actually caught up eventually, but I remember that period of like, oh, it's not cool to watch Disney anymore, but I wasn't old enough to be like, I am gonna watch what I want.
Yeah. Like I haven't seen Up either, which I know is like a really popular Pixar, and I've never seen it because it fits in that period.
I have more gaps for Pixar movies just because like I feel like the stories of those ones don't usually appeal to me as much, but most of the ones I've seen have been really good. So I just need to remind myself. Yes. I saw that one as an adult too, or like an older teenager, and I was still creeped out. Yeah, that sure seems to be the reasoning behind a lot of decisions.
It's still like it like nowadays, even with like things they call, literature, like what is that word that I never like, the literary fiction.
I know. I don't even use that phrase anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but anything that's titled that, I'm like, oh, so it's going to be sad and depressing, and so then I'm not really going to actually enjoy it. I mean, and not that I can't handle like sad events happening, but I don't want like the entire book to be about sad, depressing things. Like,
yeah, I think what bothers me about the particular kind of sad in those books a lot of times is that, and I've read some good ones as well, but in the bad ones, I feel like it's a shortcut. It's used to make it like a great novel. And it's like, well, genre fiction writers know that they have to do like characters and like story and like, emotional investment. But if you're writing literary fiction, you can just make it incredibly depressing and everyone's going to be like, this will win the Pulitzer, like, or whatever. So
it doesn't really even impact, I don't know, like for me, it doesn't even like impact me, like where if I read a fantasy book and a character dies and I didn't necessarily expect them to die, then it's like so sad and traumatized because like you followed them along their whole journey, not like I know from the very beginning that this person's gonna die or lots of people are gonna die in this, but it could just be like one extremely sad, tragic moment, and it's gonna have a lot more impact.
Yeah. And I think too, like the build up, it means more, like, because when you go into those like literary, like I think of them as like award bait books, basically, it's like, it just feels like this is the only way they know to like make a story people will care about. It's like, it feels like there's no other way it seems like they can communicate like consequences or like high stakes, whereas I feel like it's much more common in the like fantasy or historical fiction or contemporary or whatever books that I've read to like have lots of different kinds of like meaning and like consequences, and like some of the best like bittersweet endings I've read have not been ones that involve like a ton of character deaths, because it's like people having to actually deal with the consequences of their actions, so I just feel like that's less common in the books that tend to win like the Booker and like even Women's Prize for Fiction and stuff, like.
Yeah.
I love Tangled. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love Tangled too, and that's why when my daughter got scared at it, I'm like, no, this is a good movie. You should watch it.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just wait a couple years.
Yeah, you can save it for her. Yeah. I still need to watch Turning Red. I'm like excited to watch that one. It was funny because like the trailer I saw for it, I don't feel like did a great job of communicating what it was about, so I wasn't interested in it. But then I saw that guy who got like ripped apart for his like stupid, like his review that was basically like, I cannot relate to a young girl, so this is not a good movie. And I'm like, I want to see it more now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I was already more interested in it after hearing people talk about it, but that was one of the things that I'm like, just to be contrary and stubborn, I'm gonna watch it.
Well, and that makes no sense. That's like saying, well, I'm not gonna watch Peter Pan because I can't like connect with a young boy. Like,
yeah, like I just think like like you review movies for a living. Like, how do you not realize that an important part of that experience is getting to see other people's experiences. Like, you know, like whenever I see people who like diminish the importance of a story based on that, it's always like, I don't know, to me it communicates like, okay, you're someone who clearly has not had to relate to people not like you before, like not very often, you know. I was talking to somebody about this where like, even though when I was like growing up and like reading fantasy books for like younger readers, we still had more options than like, you know, generations before us did. But it was still like, if I didn't read books about boys, I would not have been able to read very many books. Like, that's just like, you have to be able to empathize with people who are not the same as you. And I think that's really important. And for you to be a grown man and to not realize that is frightening to me.
Yeah. And to not like, also like when you're looking at a movie, like a Disney movie, an older man is probably not the audience that they wrote it for. So you don't have to like connect with it in order to say, well, this is well made for the genre it is and for the like audience it's targeting. It would be like if I was reviewing a picture book and I was like, well, it's so childish, and it's like, well, yeah. So like, you know, is it a quality for children? Like, let's look at the quality for what it's intended for. Like,
yeah, like something you can acknowledge that something was not written specifically for you, and that doesn't make it bad. Like, I don't know. I feel like when you're reading about a perspective that is not yours, or like, you know, this applies to like adults reading, like kidlit, like you were saying, I feel like we are guests. If we can get something out of it, that's great. But like, it is not our, like, us not feeling like it is specifically speaking to us does not mean it didn't do a good job at what it is. It just means it's not for us. And like, that's okay. I did not see this person, but okay. I'd love to see a Korean American. I hope they do one at some point. But yes, has been more Asian representation lately, which is very exciting. Slowly but surely. But yeah, I'm excited for Turning Red.
Yeah, we'll have to get we're doing one streaming service at a time, so we don't have Disney Plus anymore. So I've got like this list of like, once we get Disney Plus again, I get to watch all these things.
Yes, I know. That's how I do it. That's how I've been doing it, is like I paid for like a month when Hamilton came out, and I watched that, and there was maybe something else too, and then I canceled. And it's like every time they add something where it's like, this is the only place I can see it, I like wait, and then I get 1 month and I watch all those things.
Yeah, so like right now we have Apple TV because my husband had this whole list. Well, I don't have much on Apple TV I want to watch, so I'm just like, I'm waiting patiently for my turn to like.
Yeah. Did you watch the Come From Away?
Oh no, I should put that on the list because that's
the one I would recommend. And I think, did Apple TV did they do Schmigadoon as well? Because I really liked that.
That's the first thing we watched. Like, I was like, this is the one thing I want to watch on here. So we watched that together, and then he went off and watched his things, and he's still watching them. And I'm like, I have nothing, so I'm just here waiting. So I'm just doing my YouTube until like we can get Disney Plus. Like, so we just like rotating through them. And the kids like Disney Plus too, but like we have Netflix that they can watch kids shows on there. Because we just always have Netflix, even though I'm at the point where I'm like, do we need Netflix? Let's like just get rid of that one.
I know. Well, and they keep taking down the things that I would always use it for. Like my favorite shows that I must have watched Leverage on Netflix like 3 or 4 times, like the whole 5 seasons through, and then they took it off. And it's like, if they just keep taking off the things that I use it for, eventually I'm just not gonna need it. Come From Away is so good. Also, hi Krista.
Oh hey, yeah, I'll put that on the list to watch. Like, yeah, with the Netflix ones, I would get like invested in a show, and then they always cancel all the shows, and so now I'm like, I'm just like done, because I don't want to get invested in your original shows and then only get 1 season.
Yeah, like I always feel like the ones that they renew, is it even called renewing when you make your own programming? But like the shows that they keep are never the ones that I'm really excited about seeing, it seems like. So yeah, I don't know. And like they keep like raising their like price per month and everything. I don't know if this is, I don't know how sustainable it is, I guess. Like, eventually I think people are going to be like, well, everybody has a streaming service now, and you guys are not really
You're not the only one anymore. Yeah.
cost. Yeah. And like I'm at the point where like because I don't watch much TV anyway, and I tend to rewatch things a lot more than I watch. So I'm kind of at the point where it's like I'm just gonna buy the DVD of this show that I watch all the time because you're probably gonna take it down from your service anyway. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, canceling Julian. That's the one that made me so mad. It was so good. I'm like, why would you do this?
Yeah. Thank you for reading with us. Enjoy your dinner.
I just don't get Julian the Phantoms because I feel like that was from what I saw online that people really liked it.
It was universally loved. Who made that choice?
Like, why would you? And they were such talented, like young people that I'm like, this was their chance to like really get out there and recognized. And then you just like give them one season and that's it. Like, oh,
yeah,
that was one of the ones I'm mad about.
And I think it's like especially frustrating for me with things like Netflix, where it's like you guys have so much money. It's not like you have to make so many cuts, you know? Like, I don't think, I don't know what their bottom line looks like exactly, but I don't feel like it, like they're not hurting for money. It's not like they can't afford to greenlight more shows.
Yeah.
I only watched the first season of that one, but yeah, I was really surprised that they canceled it because I was the same as like, I have only ever seen people love that show.
Yeah. So I get mad that we're keeping it for now because we were watching Downton Abbey and now we're watching The Crown. So like we're slowly once we finish The Crown, I might just say we should just cancel it and move on to something else.
Yeah. I just don't understand how they make their decisions clearly. Like
they don't consult me is all I know.
And that's the real issue is they do not ask us specifically if it's all right.
Is Heartstopper, because they're talking about Heartstopper, is that on Netflix? Because I have not seen that yet. That must be new on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I guess it is on Netflix. I've seen people talking about it, but I don't remember which one it was on. Nina, for some reason I had thought there were 2 seasons of Julian the Phantoms. So wow, that is an incredibly open ending if there was only 1 season.
Yeah, just 1 season. Sadly.
Yeah. The one that like was canceled ages ago and I'm never going to be over is Gallivant. I love that show with my whole heart. And that's one of the ones I just rewatch all the time. So probably if Netflix takes it down, I am going to cancel Netflix because it's like that's one of the only things I use you guys for anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I watched Gallivant, but that was a long time ago. Maybe I should watch again because I just like to watch things where people sing. I just want people to burst out into song.
Like one of the things I love about Gallivant is like everybody, you can tell that everyone working on it has such a love and appreciation for like musicals and for like weird fairy tales and like basically a lot of things that I love. And so even though it's like a parody sometimes, you can tell it's a very intelligent and loving parody. And that's what I love. I love it so much. Nana, it's very good. There's like a couple of things where you can tell that it like came out in a decade or a year where it's like, all right, we would say some things differently now. But overall, I think it did a pretty good job with stuff like that. Also, like very diverse cast for the time, which is very cool. And just the cast is like super talented, and I love them. I love all those characters so much.
After like Schmigadoon, I think that would be fun to have like another kind of fun poking fun at musicals at the same time as like being a musical.
Yeah. And the thing I like about both Gallivant and Schmigadoon is that even though it is very funny and silly, like you still care about the characters. Like they're not just there to be like silly and funny, is like they actually have like character arcs, and I really enjoyed that.
I've seen like clips of it online and I want to see it, but I don't know, is it streaming anywhere? Because it's not like streaming on the things that I have. So I'm like, where is it streaming? Because maybe I need to put that on the rotation of streaming things.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was just like cable, and I don't have cable.
I have not heard of that one either. So always looking for another musical show.
I think that's where she is like, just like in her mind. I think it's in her mind that people are singing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's something like that.
Okay. I'll have to look that one up. sounds interesting. Do we want to do another reading sprint?
Sure. I feel like I should at least finish Act 2. Like, I've found Act 2 the entire day. Like, I just least need to finish Act 2 today, or I'm going to be upset.
Yeah. What do you think for length of reading sprint? What would be helpful for you?
Oh, it doesn't matter because it'll probably take me forever. So it doesn't matter how long it is.
Do we want to do a little bit of a longer one? Like we can go to maybe 45? How does that sound?
If we do 45, does that mean that would be our last one, right? And then we would close up, or
Probably.
do you think?
I don't know what the rest of your night is looking like, Kelly, but
Well, that'll be kind of like around, like, my kids start getting ready for bed around 7, so it'd be good to at least like be able to help with that.
okay, cool. So yeah, probably gonna be our last sprint then, everybody. And I think we're gonna do till 45. So one more push. I want to get my page goal.
Great.
Okay, so mute in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so how did the last sprint go?
I finished the act.
Good. Yeah, I reached my page goal too. So I'm like, I did what I intended to do during our sprint. So
Yeah.
are you getting into the like character stuff now?
Not yet. Like I mean, I think that we will in this next act. Hold on me. Sorry, I had my sound on my computer. So I think it's gonna pick up from here, but that second act was like so much of the setup. It was taking me forever, and I'm like sad because I don't think I'll finish this play today for this month, but oh well. It'll be
fun. Yeah. And you got like a good chunk of it read, which I feel like is good. Like sometimes if I just like can start the thing that I wanted to read during the month by the end of the month, that can feel like, I don't know, like I accomplished my goal even if I didn't get it done.
Yeah, and sometimes with Shakespeare, I just have to remind myself, like, if I haven't seen it, that, like, I just need to, like, give myself grace that it can take, like, a long time, because really need to, like, for me, I need to feel like I'm really rooted in it and know who the characters are, know what they're actually saying, and, like, really get it, because if not, then it's like I get to the end of the act and I'm like, I have no idea what happened, and I have to go back and read it all again.
Yeah, no, I understand. And even sometimes, even with ones that I know really well, it's like if I'm enjoying it, I don't want to feel like I have to make myself finish it just because I could finish it quicker, you know? Like, yeah, I want to, especially with like the language. It's like one of the things I enjoy about the plays are the way he writes. So it's like I don't want to just rush through that because I feel like I should, you know? Yeah. Okay, I'm glad everyone went to bed who needed to, because I know I know Nana, like her time zone, she should have been in bed probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after I finished that act, I didn't want to start the next one because it was really long. So I started editing my TBR. So hopefully that'll go up tonight if I can finish it.
Yay.
After my kids go to bed. I don't know. Like sometimes I'm like, is it bad to like upload a video really late at night? But then I'm like, oh, well, other people will be like, you'll be awake. So like,
yes, I will. I know. Sometimes like last night I posted, I think it was last night, I posted my really long wrap up at like close to midnight. It might have even been after. And it's like, well, I know there are people who follow me who are like in the UK. So that's like a reasonable time for a video to go up for them. And I also feel like sometimes if I don't post it right away, then I'll feel like, oh, I need to check it again, you know, like the next day. It's like, no, just like just post it, get it done. So
I was there in the morning. Sometimes I like to have one, you know, in the morning if I'm up before the kids to watch. Today was too busy of a day, so I did not get to watch your video. So I have to like, it'll probably be tonight when like they're in bed and I'm trying to get like my last steps in before the end of the day.
It's like almost a feature-length film, so you'll have plenty of time. Like, I think I realized I need to do what I did for February, where if it's a month where I read that many books, I need to do 3 parts because I do not shut up. Like, I need to break it up more. Yeah, it's late.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like with a lot of the longer ones, like yours or like Ashley from Bookish Realm, she also does really long. I don't necessarily need to sit down and watch them all at once. Like I'll just watch.
Yeah.
I might watch 20 minutes and then like come back to it later, and that's fine. So sometimes it takes me 3 sittings or 3 walk, because like I often will do it while I'm getting steps in, and so like if I'm done with my steps, then I will just like come back and do it the next time I need to walk some more.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I do is like I watch videos in chunks as well. So yeah, I tell myself that is too. It's like it wouldn't be like so long if people are watching it in small bits like I do.
Yeah. And I actually, you know, and the funny thing is, because you know how I always am like so late like sending out a comment. So like what I do is like I'll watch it while I'm doing something else, and then when I come back to do it, I speed it up and then like write the comments. But then that's also when I go to Goodreads and add all the like books that I want to add. So it's almost like watching it again to remind myself that like, oh, there was like 4 books in this video that I wanted to add to my Goodreads, and I just speed it up to really fast, and that way I can like still catch, oh, she liked this one and I want to add it.
Yeah. I know, like I'll have I'll have like multiple video tabs open are videos that I've like almost finished, but I just haven't gotten around to yet. And so sometimes it's like I'll finish them all at once. So I'll I'll post like these long comments that all go up at the same second because I finally like, oh yeah, I finished that video. I need to like submit the comment. So yeah.
At least we both do that to each other, because like I'll get like 5 comments from you, and then like next week I'm like, okay, here's my like 6 comments to you.
Yeah, that's something that's like I never think it's weird when other people do like when there's like weird timing things like that, because I'm like, oh, other people watch videos like I do.
Yeah. Kier does it too.
Yeah, see, there's no right way to watch a YouTube video. No right way or wrong way. Mm-hmm. Okay, so any last thoughts? I know that we're like actually about the end time that I thought we might be at. So we timed this beautifully. Thank you guys, everyone who like participated in the readathon or read along with us, or like any participation was great. Like I feel like we emphasize this every year. It's like it really is not supposed to be like a readathon where you have to do like a certain number of the prompts to feel like you did it. So if you participated at all, we love having you. And it was fun to do this during Shakespeare's like birth month. That was something that I always wanted to do. So I'm happy it worked out this year. Yeah. And Kelly, thanks for joining me, for being our like special guest for this. I'm glad you got your act done, that we got some good reading in. And thank you guys in the comments who have been like reading along or participating or just like hanging out with us. And yeah, I can't think of, it's like the end of the readathon, so there's nothing really to announce. But we'll see you next year, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks for hosting.
Thanks, everyone. And